If you've ever thought it's too late to go back and have a career in what you really were meant to do, then this episode will inspire you to reconsider. Today, co-host Ziba is sharing her story about how she's had many close calls with not following her passions and how she ultimately found the confidence to do so and find success. From leaving her first love as a ballerina to heading to business school and entering the world of finance and marketing at Fortune 500 companies, to returning to dance as an entrepreneur and finding new passions along the way. This story will inspire you to go for what you really want to do.
If you're a multi-passionate hustler who loves squeezing the juice out of life and always looking to get to the next level, then Share the Wealth is for you. Welcome. I'm Ziba.
And I'm Sarah.
We're two friends who just happen to live across the street from each other and share a deep passion for entrepreneurship and wellness. After meeting as neighbors, we quickly bonded over our similar journeys, starting out in Fortune 500 companies before diving headfirst into the world of entrepreneurship and opening fitness studios.
Together, we bring unique perspectives to the table, combining years of experience in business, fitness, and personal growth. Join us and our incredible guests as we explore the realities of being ambitious women, navigating business, motherhood, wellness, and the many twists and turns life throws our way. So, let's start sharing. All right, Ziba Lennox in the house. I know everybody listening is excited to dive into how you got to where you are today. And I know personally that there's a lot of twists and turns and different
swirls.
Yeah, swirls like all of us. And I think there's going to be some really valuable takeaways for our listeners. So we'll start as far back as we can remember and talk about your corporate life, how you got into doing your own thing, and where you're at today. When you were younger, what did you think you would be when you grew up?
I always wanted to be a ballerina. At age 2, my parents took me to see a performance, went on stage after the show, and was like, this is it for me. This was in the early 80s. And then we go to the store and I'd leave with a record like Strauss or Bach. I think that was always my calling. I went into classes as soon as they would accept me, and they didn't accept me for a couple of years. Like they would take me and teachers would be like, no, she's too young.
Like 3 years old?
Yeah, like 2, 3. But I persevered and finally got into my classes. I always felt this great passion for self-expression. My body connection was something I felt even as a child. I didn't know that's what it was called, but hearing the music, moving my body, a way to escape and get serotonin and adrenaline was something I really craved. I didn't really think of anything else. I took ballet very seriously, started training very hard and professionally at age 8. And that's when I started doing Nutcracker. And that was a very rigorous performance schedule. The great thing about being a dancer or ballerina, anything in that field, is that you get so much discipline in, or a sense of routine and showing up and not seeing like quick rewards. And that's something that I try to share with my kids. They have all these lofty ideas of what they want to be. I always tell them, well, you have to show up and do that work that seems really monotonous and, like years at the bar before you get to put pointe shoes on, hours and hours at rehearsal before you get to go on stage, and kind of having that really hard work happen before you have something nice to show for it. I just read a great quote from Ralph Lauren that said, people have no idea how much hard work is behind nice things. And it really struck a chord. The first time I thought about doing anything else, much like you'll hear in Sarah's episode, is that she wanted to be a doctor. I also had inclination for medicine, but I also really loved outfits, even at an early age. And I didn't like the doctor outfit, which is kind of
God, that's amazing.
An embarrassing admission, but I feel confident in myself to be able to make it now. I just thought, I don't know that I can go through life wearing scrubs. It was such a vivid thought.
It's funny. Now it's awesome to be so comfortable all the time.
I know. What was I thinking?
Yep.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, I remember in high school dissecting anything and my teachers being like, have you thought about medicine? I'd be like, I did, but it's not for me. Sorry, the outfits suck. I'm just kidding.
You're in Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm in Texas.
So there's a lot of opportunity there, and you were able to explore the world of dance.
And we were very fortunate that we had an incredible woman. Her name was Ingeborg Heuser, rest in peace, and was a prolific mind in dance. She had danced at the Berlin Opera House and would bring a lot of people in from all over the world to dance with us, from South America, Russia, Ukraine,
Wow.
European, like just all over. Had really great training there. And then every summer, my sister and I would go to different ballet workshops like San Francisco Ballet, Austin Ballet, Pittsburgh,
Okay. So when it's time for college, what are you thinking you're going to focus on? Dance?
Yes, I wanted to not go to college, just been a dancer. But bless my parents, I told them, fine, I'll go to college, but at the University of Texas, and I'll keep dancing, but know that when I'm done, I'm going to dance full time. As I got through college, I started realizing I don't think I have it in me to be so self-destructive because, and I can't speak for all dancers, but ballet is very self-destructive. Even if you take care of your body, just from going on stage, dancing 6 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day, having to ice my feet in an ice bucket. I went through college without drinking because my body was my temple. I couldn't afford to be hungover. I couldn't afford to be dehydrated. My diet was very meticulous. Like, I don't think I have it in me to give it my all in that way. And then at that same time, I was dating somebody who was really into finance, and we both started taking an economics class, and I fell in love with economics. It was such a weird thing because I didn't know that I could be passionate about something else. Mm-hmm. I remember speaking to my economics professor and saying, like, do you think I could be something like in this? And he said, yes. He said, you're one of the top students in the class. You should definitely think about doing applied economics, which is finance. And I did get an internship in business at a Walmart Supercenter. I was juggling school at the time, dancing full-time, performing maybe like 4 or 5 shows, like productions a year. This internship at a Walmart Supercenter taught me so much about what it is to run a retail store, managing people, managing numbers. It was invaluable. And I was not a Walmart fan. I just knew that it was such a big brand in terms of their operational excellence before Target was even that big.
And what year is this?
This is 2001.
Yeah. And now Walmart's getting accolades now, and they've come a long way. To be involved back then, and you realized all of that. What an amazing intro. And this is your first non-dance interest.
Exactly. It was a management trainee internship. So I was basically a manager, and it was insane because I hadn't earned respect with people. I didn't know anything, but I was really eager. And I think it took 6 months for people to realize I wasn't some college kid.
Or were you just dancing around the store?
No, seriously. I mean, sometimes I come from performances. I mean, I was definitely a hot mess. Once I graduated, I knew Walmart wasn't forever, but it was a great stepping stone to experience business in such a all-encompassing way, because it was operation, human resources, everything you could think of. When I went to the store manager, who was amazing, he said, I think you should make a career out of being a store manager. I thought, I just don't think it's for me. I was there. Sometimes you're there 7 days a week, holidays, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Christmas Eve. And so then I thought, this isn't forever. I started applying to schools to get my MBA.
I love how you went. I don't want to do dance full time. It's too hard, but I'll just do dance, internship, finish school.
Well, it wasn't like I didn't want to do dance anymore, but I was starting to feel like I needed a hedge a little bit in terms of, okay, dance has always been the love of my life, but I can't give it my all because I don't want to lose myself to that.
That's fair.
I feel like it was God because I really wanted to go for it. Once I graduated, my mom said, you can go be a dancer and struggle, live at home, do what you want to do. I think I was like, you know what? I think I've outgrown, not dance, because I still danced for years and years after that, but I felt like I didn't need to be a quote unquote ballerina. I had performed so much at that point. I thought I need to try something in business, not at Walmart. I'm going to apply to business school. It's a great way to go somewhere different before I get married and have kids. I want to get my MBA done.
That experience at Walmart solidified the confidence to say an MBA would be a good idea.
Yeah. Exactly. When I told my store manager I was going to do that, he just laughed at me. He said, "You're so dumb." He didn't say that, but he said, there's money to be made. He just could not understand.
But you had to follow your intuition.
Exactly.
And that's so
And of course I was
he's trying to help.
No, he's trying to be like, hey, you can be like me. But I didn't want to be somewhere 7 days a week and that kind of thing. And also at the time, it seemed very entrepreneurial. I had always told myself two things, which will be hilarious in a little bit. Number one, I would never teach dance. And number two, I would never own my own business.
Oh my gosh, you have to be willing to evolve on those initial visions or rules. Wow. Okay, so you applied to MBA programs, and where do you land?
I ended up at the University of Rochester. It was top ranked school in finance. And I really had this fantasy to work on Wall Street, be a banker, and live that life. It seemed like the perfect school to reach those objectives. And I also knew that this was a good place to do it versus like a big city where I would be distracted and,
smart.
And like a very high cost of living. There were so many alums in New York City. It was the best of both worlds.
That's a good point about the big city, but the cost of living, you were making some mature decisions.
I think it was made for me.
Yep.
I know what I'm studying. It's finance. The internship I got over 2 years was in fixed income, which was very coveted. It was like everybody wanted to do fixed income. The bond market was very sexy, all the leverage buyouts, all the things going on at that time, firms and Lehman Brothers, all the people that eventually imploded. So got an internship in fixed income, and I actually really liked it and thought I could see myself there. When I was interviewing for my after graduation position, I got a job offer with Target. And I thought, this is amazing. I can work at corporate. I can use all that knowledge from Walmart.
Do you think your Walmart experience helped you get ahead in that Target opportunity?
Potentially. Some couldn't have hurt just because they were trying to be a chicer version of Walmart.
Seems like you were a perfect fit. That experience, and then of course the finance MBA and your interest in fashion. I'm sure at this point it's growing more as you matured, something you leaned into more.
Well, it's funny that you say that because when I was in school, I remember having a couple of classmates that really wanted to work in the luxury industry or beauty industry. I remember thinking, wow, I want to do that too, but I didn't have the confidence to think I could do it. I feel more comfortable doing something technical, not creative, and not that sexy, because I don't know that I'm going to be good enough to do it.
And you could keep it as a passion, a side project.
In hindsight, I know now nothing drives you. You're never going to be as successful as you are meant to be if you're not doing what you are blindly passionate about, like just all consuming.
And you just sometimes have to figure that out. Sometimes people don't know what that is, and that's the hard part. Admitting to yourself, this is what I'm passionate about, whether it's fashion, even if it's not what looks good on paper, or getting over what other people will think. This finance degree, why are you going to go work in beauty?
And it almost felt like the fashion and beauty was too close to the ballet world. I needed to take a clear break. No, I'm going to wear the power suit and be the cutthroat banker, which is not me at all.
Well, so then you end up accepting the role at Target. What was the role? What was the title?
I was a financial analyst, and
you moved to the Midwest.
I moved to Minneapolis. It was not that easy. What made it easy was that my sister came along with me. She had just graduated and took an engineering job. We were two single gals in Minneapolis. I had a very harsh thing happen. I got fired.
Was it a restructuring or
no? It was like just the manager that I had been assigned to had come back from maternity leave. She'd taken significant time away to adopt a kid, and she came back, and I remember the minute she walked in the room, the way she looked at me, I was like, this is not going to work. It was so weird. I just knew in my stomach. She sat me down after maybe having a couple of touch points with me and being like, I'm sorry, Ziba, you're just like not the right fit for Target. And I'm like, well, isn't there another department I can go to? I have a ton of experience and I haven't worked with you at all. You haven't been here. And she was like, nope. The best thing for you to do is to leave Target, like literally, quote unquote. Like she said, go apply at the store. That's what she said.
Oh my gosh.
And I was heartbroken because I felt like it wasn't a right fit, not even just because of her, but there was a lot of like status culture where like your constantly having to like meet up with people on little coffee dates, and everybody's calendar was open. You could see everybody was having coffee with everybody else, or you had to go and like happy hour after was like really part of it at the time. Like if you didn't go to happy hour, it felt like you weren't going to advance. I remember going a couple of times and thinking, I just sat with these people all day long. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be at happy hour. I want to go to
dance.
Ballet class. I want to go to dance. Literally. That's where my sister and I would go to ballet after work. It already felt like a little bit of tension, like fit wise, but it's not like she knew that. I would hope she was just looking at my work output, right? Anyway, I picked myself up off the floor. My sister's there. She moved for me. She's got an amazing job.
Is there anything that was there positive, and what did you learn from Target?
I don't really have a lot of positive things to say about it. Speaking about networking, I made a group of friends that started at the same time. We were at orientation together, and they were in different parts of Target, and they knew other people in the Twin Cities that worked in different corporations. One of them knew somebody that worked at Best Buy. So 2 weeks later, I got a call. It was Best Buy advertising, which again, I thought I wasn't good enough. I thought marketing was beyond me. I had never leaned into my creativity. They were really interested in the fact that my first language is Spanish, because they were trying to do a big World Cup campaign that was all targeted towards Spanish speaking segment. So suddenly what turned out to be like a project turned out to be a full-time position. And that company just brought a lot of my self-confidence and self-esteem back, because they really recognized my work. And every single time they restructured, I would get promoted. Oh. There was a way to move up. It was the right fit. And it's funny because I knew that I felt it in my gut again. Within weeks, I'm like, this is the right fit. These are my people. You know, this is the culture that feels right to me. My last role there was managing their luxury brand, Magnolia. And
You made your way to luxury.
I made my way to luxury.
At a technology.
That's right.
Yeah, retail. That's amazing.
And I learned so much about audio quality and became like a speaker snob. It was a phenomenal time in my life. And I wouldn't have left if they hadn't literally offered an employee buyout just because they were restructuring. And I wasn't going to take it because they had this is way before COVID, this is 2008. And so they already believed in flexible work environment. Like, you work from home, you do what you need to do. Come if you need to come. Like, so I was loving that. And my husband was like, you know what? I just think that we're not locals. Nobody visits us. Why don't we take it and figure out if we should move? And I was like, what? No, I love it here. I loved Best Buy. Shout out to my Best Buy people. I love you.
I just think it's so amazing how, looking back, hindsight is 2020. In the moment it sucked, but Target wasn't a good fit. And now you're finding yourself at a place that is a good fit, and like the difference that it gives you in your performance and your confidence, and then you just being able to move up and find your niche. Like I joked about you finding the luxury brand, but like maybe that was the problem all along. Maybe Target wasn't good enough for you.
Target's not good enough for me.
Like, I love Target now, but like I just mean, like, they weren't fostering that type of evolution at the time. You found that in an unlikely place.
When I got to Best Buy, I could barely talk. In a large group meeting, when I left, I was giving presentations to COOs
in Spanish,
English and German, managing my own budget on a whole brand, and working with so many teams, feeling confidence, feeling sought after, feeling like if I wanted to make a move that another person in a hiring position would want me. I just felt so different. And so of course I didn't want to leave. But
you mentioned your husband. Nick moved to be with you. Your sister left.
He didn't need to be anywhere. He was consulting at the time, so he just needed an airport. So we were just there really for me, and fell in love with Minneapolis. The Twin Cities are impeccable. There's so much to offer: theater, dining, nature, everything. We had fallen in love with it, but nobody had fallen in love with it with us, like of our family. So it was just, we felt a little bit isolated. When he suggested taking the leave, I did it very reluctantly. I remember I stayed up all night crying my eyes out and being like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I did. There was something, you always have this little voice that says, do it, do it, do it, that I'm trying to become better at listening to, or don't do it. But so then took the leave. We had just bought our dream home.
In Minneapolis.
6 months before. It was perfectly staged. Like
No kids,
No
right?
kids. It was just us. It was hard to leave, but we said we might be back. He just needs an airport. We'll rent it out. I thought I would hop around with him to his consulting jobs and we would be nomads for a bit. So we did that for about 6 months. And it was really hard to live out of a suitcase. It was also fun because I had a lot of downtime, which I had never had before. I had always worked so hard in dance and college. I was just reading Us Weekly, started a blog, taking Zumba classes, going to the gym for 4 hours a day, and just kind of being a trophy wife a little bit.
Wait, sorry, where were you living?
Nowhere. So literally, like he was working for a client that was based out of Boston. So I was in Boston a lot, and also Kentucky. We were between those two. And we would also do trips to see family around the country.
This is common now, but what year is this, 2010?
No, 2009. Everybody thought we were insane.
Yeah.
And people still do, so it's okay. The first 2 weeks were awful. I was in a depression. I missed Best Buy. What did I do? And the next 6 months, I was like, yay, this is amazing. Then one day he was like, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm doing it. Like, where are we going for dinner? That's my biggest concern of the day. And he's like, where should we live? Should we go back to Minneapolis? At that time, my sister and I were seeing each other a lot. Every time we would be like, did you see this workout? Look at this dance. We were working out in a unique way, but we couldn't find a way to do it.
As ex-professional dancers.
Yeah, right. So we started doing that. And then I remember we were in Vegas at one of the many trips that we took that year, her and I said, why don't we open something? She was like, okay. And I said, oh, okay. She's like, yes. I'll quit engineering. She was in Houston at the time. I said, do you want to go to Boston, Denver, or Chicago? Like, it was literally like so random. She's like, let's go to Chicago. I took a trip to look at studio spaces, found one again in my gut. I walked in and I thought, this is it. This is it. It was 2009 recession. Nobody was taking a chance on anybody. The landlord was like, yeah, just sign a year lease. Like, he was so easygoing. He was like an angel. And so we were on our way.
How did you go from, you mentioned earlier, like you never wanted to teach dance. Like, what changed?
Yeah.
Do you think it was the time off and the like soul searching?
Yeah, I always felt daunted. I didn't want to teach dance because I remember one of my operations professors in undergrad was like, those who can do and those who can't teach. And it always stuck with me.
Those who can do teach.
Those who can do and those who can't teach.
Wow, that's harsh.
He was making fun of himself, and it always stuck with me. And I remember secretly judging that way. Even the great master teachers I had in ballet were teaching because they couldn't do it anymore. Maybe they had at one point, but anyway, there was something about it feeling like a failure, like you didn't make it if you have to now resort to teaching, in my mind, right? Yep. So at that point, I was 30 and felt mature. Even if I had gone the professional dancer route, my career would be ironically winding down. At that point, I felt more at peace. It wasn't hardcore ballet. It was really pivoting and teaching fitness. And so Zumba was a great way for us to be like, okay, this can be something that's, more accessible to the masses. And to me, there was a lot about Zumba that I tweaked and didn't like. So we didn't teach that for very long, but it was a great kind of way to spring off and kind of do our own method.
Smart.
I got over my fear of entrepreneurship after being unemployed for 6 months and seeing the world didn't fall apart. I felt like, oh, okay, I guess I can take a chance. We still didn't have kids, so we didn't have that pressure.
6 months off, you're out in the world doing stuff, interacting with people, going to the gym. There's life. Not everybody's going into an office every day. You don't realize that until you look up.
Exactly. And I think, the other beauty of it was being able to do it with my sister, who I trusted blindly. Even just looking at each other, we knew what we were thinking. It was just a very easy partner to take on. Mm-hmm. And so that really kind of felt like the right time to do it. And it felt very experimental when we started. And this is something that, of course, the hindsight, we didn't set out with a plan or an exit plan. We just knew the business model just from like my intuition from having an MBA and that kind of stuff. But it wasn't well thought out. It was more like, let's just open and see what happens. Literally.
When you had a 1-year lease, it seemed like the risk wasn't that high.
No, It wasn't. We saved on what we could. We weren't big spenders. There was so much love that went into first growing it and hitting the street to get clients. There was no social media back then. Just Yelp and big signs.
And you did a billboard, right?
Huge, obnoxious billboards that are still there. Damon and North.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was very scary. I remember the first day I show up and I'm like, oh, because I had worked in marketing, like I knew some things to do, like Google Ads and Facebook, but nobody showed up. The second day, one person showed up. It just kind of started really word of mouth. And then before we knew it, we were at capacity and, just expanded within the building. Then 2 years later, we opened up our second location. Then 2 years later, we opened up our third location. And then COVID hit.
Oh my gosh. So COVID hits and you have 3 studios. What happened? Did you go digital at that point?
Yeah, we had been working on an online platform for a long time just because we thought it was something that would be a great offering when people were out of town. And we hadn't kind of press publish, again, out of like thinking it wasn't good enough. The product wasn't quite there. COVID hits and we're like, okay, fine. We quickly pivoted to live streaming for our instructors that were willing to teach from their homes.
Nice.
So we kept the schedule as best as we could. But Illinois was very difficult, shutting us down off and on. It was extremely difficult to make ends meet because you don't have predictable clients. The people that are coming are people that are willing to work out and are not germaphobes, that are willing to work out with a mask. The regulations were so strict in Illinois. We were teaching remotely a lot and we were just kind of pivoting as best we could. But, I think one of the things that was happening, this was like at year 13 of being open. So this was already a very mature business. Have a lot of loyalty, a lot of learnings, and also not feel like we were failing because we had 3 locations. The other thing that happened is both my sister and I moved out of Chicago. Now we're operating, not being there, making it harder. So we decided to move solely online.
Gotcha. What were some hurdles in being online only?
Well, what's difficult for online fitness is that if you're trying something new, it can be difficult to not be in person and find all the nuances of correction and form, especially with dance fitness. It moves faster. Sometimes it feels like you can't catch on as quickly. So those are some hurdles when introducing new clients. But the beauty is, of course, is that the people that are familiar with it is that the convenience is incredible. Just roll out of bed, turn on the computer and do it on your terms. It's like anything, pros and cons.
Yeah. So we didn't actually mention while you were building MaZi Dance Fitness in Chicago, you're leading the social media for the business, correct?
Yes.
And this is when you're discovering Instagram specifically, and it's working, right? It's growing and it's successful. At what point did you start to think that maybe the Instagram content creation influencer world might be a viable career?
I think the first time I took it seriously was once my sister and I made the decision not to franchise. We figured out, we love our business models. We have 3 amazing studios. We're so happy. This is a great business. We might open more studios, just the 2 of us. But once we made that decision and everything was such beautiful working order, it was a well-oiled machine. It's not that I found myself with a ton of time because there's always so much to do. I was a mom of young kids, but I always need to be crafting something and kind of mildly obsessed with something new. I've always wanted to be more in fashion because I spend so much time shopping, getting dressed, looking at fashion content. Since I was a young girl, I would pour over Vogue, Elle, Bazaar, know all the designers. I thought this is the time to do it. I was already running a blog for MaZi Dance Fitness. It was surprising how much fashion content I had on there.
Picking it in.
Yeah, I was doing like fitness tips, but also like studio to street style or like, that kind of thing. And so I just thought, I think this is the time now that we're at this standstill we know we have 3 studios, we're doing great. We don't want to do one right away. This is a time for me to start a blog and posting intentionally on Instagram. I didn't feel confident posting outfits on Instagram without a blog. I needed more substance. So I did the blog first and then like surprise world, I'm now going to be a blogger. And so that's kind of what happened. And ever since then, most days I have posted on Instagram.
Do you remember the first time you posted something on Instagram that was fashion?
Yes. And it was terrifying. The whole thing was how to style leggings, kind of like desk to dinner kind of thing.
And you did mention that you had 2 small kids at this point. So things were changing behind the scenes. If you're like us and love how chic and powerful a heel makes you feel, but you also need the comfort of your sneakers, you need to try Inez. We are so excited to be able to offer a 15% discount to our listeners. Designed by a woman, handcrafted, and ethically made in Spain, Inez specializes in heels and often dresses up our most basic outfits while not stopping our powerful walk. Most importantly, you will not believe how comfortable and beautiful these shoes are. Find your favorite new pair of shoes at Inez.com, INEZ.com. Use the code WEALTH, WELLTH 15 to get 15% off your order.
Oh, yeah.
How did having kids change your vision for yourself and your career?
I felt so blessed when I had Mateo and I was a brand new mom. We had 2 studios at the time. I think I literally was like doing payroll while I was still at the hospital. But I remember thinking it's on my terms and I have nowhere to be. I can manage things around so my leave is covered. I have nobody to answer to except my clients. And thinking this is such a gift, and not having family to help in town, not having a nanny, and being able to take him to the studio and then, kind of arrange my schedule so that when Nick was home, I was able to teach classes and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But he would just like go everywhere with me until finally I felt comfortable enough, because I'm kind of an anxious mom. I felt comfortable enough to leave him in daycare, but I didn't do that until he was like 14 months old.
Yeah. And then you had another one. So
yes. Oh my gosh. And so when we opened our second studio, I was pregnant with Mateo. I was all over the schedule because we wouldn't spend money staffing at first. And so I was scheduled all over the place, had a huge belly. And then with Henrik, we opened up our third location. The same thing happened. I was super pregnant with him. And I remember thinking, why is it that every time I'm pregnant, I'm opening a studio? This is not a good idea.
Sometimes the timing is not perfect.
No, it's not.
We forget and gloss over details.
But it helped me not feel as nauseous or like kind of disregard, kind of wallowing in pregnancy. Like, oh, I don't feel good.
You didn't have time.
I didn't have time. I think having kids kind of opened that up for me. Time is running by quickly and you want to get stuff done that you are dreaming about, even if you're scared, even if, you feel like an imposter or you're worried about what people are going to think. I just thought, well, I don't like wondering what if. I'd rather just do it and then be like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that.
Yep. And the kids give you the perspective of the passing of time. You cannot ignore it.
No, my oldest is like almost looking at me in the eye now. Wow, you're almost as tall as me.
Even if we're not aging fast, you can't look away. It gives you inspiration to get stuff done.
I became so much better at getting stuff done once I became a mom. I used to look back and be like, what did I do with my, what was I doing? There wasn't even any TikTok to blame. It's like, okay, I have half an hour to do this and half an hour to do that. It's going to get done.
So true. Yep. You're just a master of time management for the most part. Of course, we all have our days, but you see women saying, I'm just going to put breastfeeding on my resume because it shows that I can multitask, or just being a mom and running a household, but also a business. It's the ultimate confidence builder. As much as it beats you down, you really there's nothing.
Also puts things in perspective. Like sometimes, when you have a business betrayal, failure, things that break your heart, you're able to have that perspective of like, you know what? It really doesn't matter that much in the greater scheme of things. It's like one of those things that matters in these 5 minutes, but not for 5 years.
Yeah. Whether it's your kids or your partner, perspective is everything. Your fashion business is off the ground. You're leaving Chicago. Where are we landing?
So first we went to Tampa during COVID just because we thought we wanted to live there. And we quickly realized that it wasn't for us because we didn't have family around. As much as I've started drinking the Florida juice. We landed back in Chicago from Tampa, and I told Nick, we're going to stay here. I'm going to go back to the studio because we still have the studio at this point. And we're going to stay put. He just nodded his head. And then like a week later, he sends me like a house listing to Rochester, New York. And so here we are.
All right. So worked out in Rochester and I'm so happy.
I can't believe we moved here the same year. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was like a couple months. I was June.
What?
When were you?
I was August.
Well, you were soon after. I remember being like, oh, great, thank God. Like
another victim.
another newbie.
I thought you
thought it
seemed
was
so
for me?
established.
I don't know why.
So
Who
like
knows? As stressful as it might be, moving from Florida to Chicago with 2 little kids and then to Rochester. How did you feel like you were able to do this because of the flexibility you had already put in place for yourself and your career?
Yes, absolutely. I didn't feel any qualms about moving my business because COVID had taught me I could, move my fitness business online. It just felt so much more doable. I was looking at it from this is a good place for my family to be versus anything else. And that's always something you have to think about when you're a mom is, as much as I go to Chicago and New York City and I'm having, my Roman holiday, that support system to have everything is paramount.
You're finally settled and like this is a great place for your family. So does that inspire you? Are you ready to go full speed ahead in one direction or many because you have that foundation?
Yes and no. The kids are getting older. They need me more now. Mm-hmm. So even though I do have a better support system and everything like that, I have to be available once they come home. These years just fly by. Yeah. And so yes and no, settled, all the good things, but nothing has really changed. Being a fashion content creator, it's a wild ride. And we covered that in our social media episode and how amazing that world is.
How has your definition of success evolved?
I think for a long time, I thought more is more studios, more clients, more followers, more brand collaborations, more. And I think that now that I have seeked that out so much and work for it, I'm more about like the what or like the quality of it, much more than the extent of it, if that makes any sense.
Definitely. And that can only come with time, right?
Sometimes you can have a lot of impact with something you didn't think was what you were going for.
In this world you've been in for a while, working for yourself, creating content, putting stuff out there, what resources do you use to stay motivated or just evolve? Do you have a business coach, seek out mentors or peers? How do you stay on top of the ever-changing industry? It's just so evolving, it's not black and white corporate role.
One of the things dance really left behind was this inner drive. Once I fall in love with something and set out to do it, it's hard for me to quit it. Like if I really love it and wake up thinking I'm excited to do this. So even though there has been a lot of troughs and valleys with fitness and with fashion content creation, because, you're not, even though being an entrepreneur, you are more in control of your destiny in many ways, you are not in control of so many things. It's easy to feel discouraged, but coming back to the mission of believing in yourself and what you want to share and slowly seeing the results, even if it is slow. Sometimes you have these weeks where it feels like everything is falling into place and all the things, but then you also have these other days nothing is working. I feel the whole dance discipline comes down to habits. They're really hard to shake. Willpower is not enough because willpower is not going to get you through anything or make things happen for you. It's like setting up these booby traps for yourself of habits, discipline, belief system.
Hacking your mind.
I'm always trying to find people that know more than me and be coached by them or join groups of like-minded people, like content creators. I have an amazing YouTube group. We meet every couple of weeks on Zoom and talk everything YouTube, which is a very lonely business and it's really hard. It's just a way to have a rapport because otherwise I'm my own coworker. I don't have anybody else to really kind of be like, oh, well, today sucked, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, that algorithm.
Yeah, like just talking yourself into the camera.
Yes.
As you've tried to go deeper, like you said, on partnerships or how you invest your time, how have you honed in on the types of brands and partners you want to work with? Is there a filter you put potential partners through? And with your reach, any partners lucky to work with you? How do you filter everything just coming in your inbox?
Oh, it's such a great question. So what's helped me is being a YouTuber, because I have a face of who I'm talking to with their comments and things that they share with me on my videos. I'm able to kind of start to get a picture of these avatars, know their names and get to know them. I think to myself, let's call her Anne. Would Anne use this? And would this solve Anne's problem? That's been very helpful. Being a stylist and listening to women and their insecurities and the things that they are kind of going through when they're shopping has also really informed a lot of my decisions. But one of the things that I've always tried to do in any partnership, even early on, was, do I really like this? I have a hard time faking it. I remember hearing this early on and it stuck with me. If somebody gets something because you recommended it and it wasn't good, they will never buy from you again.
And it's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. One time I had this collaboration with a hotel in the Catskills. Nick and I showed up and it was awful. If anybody stays here, they're going to unfollow me.
So what'd you do? Did you just back out?
I just backed out. I literally got in the room. I took a look around, left the room. I went downstairs. I said, I'm so sorry. This is embarrassing, but I cannot stay here. I cannot collaborate with you. It sucked because we had nowhere to stay for the night. We had to drive somewhere and figure out where to stay. But I thought, this is not going to work. I just recently had this happen with a brand who wanted me to give me a crazy time to turn around to tout their red laser mask and wanted it done so quickly. I was like, there's no way I can speak to results in 3 days. Yeah, being authentic and true to yourself, and also taking the time to know your audience.
It must be an interesting balance of, okay, this might not be perfect for me, but I know Anne would like it because it covers an area some people I've learned are self-conscious about. It's a constant balance.
No, that is a great point. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't need this, but I know Anne does.
Yeah. Shout out to Anne. Well, this has been wonderful. I already see the headline, from Walmart to Wall Street to Chanel. Okay, but we should do a lightning round. Iced coffee or hot coffee?
Hot.
Always? Even in
Always,
summer? Wow,
always.
That's amazing. Being sweaty in cold weather or sneezing in hot weather?
Sneezing in hot weather. I had so many nights in Chicago where I was sweaty in cold weather.
Yeah. Bad haircut or bad dye job?
Haircut.
Are you a night owl or a morning person?
Night owl.
Salty or sweet?
Both.
Depends on the day.
Like together, basically.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Dream vacation destination?
Paris.
Go-to comfort food?
Cheese.
Audiobook or hardcover book?
Hardcover.
Wow. How do you do it?
Probably because I fly so much, but I love listening to stuff when I'm out and about. But I'd rather listen to a podcast than a book.
Yeah.
I feel like with the book, I get a little lost.
Yeah, you zone out. Totally get it. Got to commit to the hard copy. All right, this is great. Yeah. If you enjoyed today's conversation, the best way to support us is by subscribing, sharing the podcast with a friend, and leaving a review. And we'd love to hear from you. Comment below or slide into our DMs. See you next time.